organization, and Northwestern University for Center for Talent Development, the most senior member in the gifted space. So the Center for Talent Development is part of the Northwestern University, and for the last 4 decades, they've been working in the space of gifted education. And Agastya Foundation, a not-for-profit, which has been working with children, especially in rural areas, with over 20 lakh children over the last 15 years or so. So we formed the Gifted India Network because over the last 6-7 years of our work in this space, as we interacted with educators, parents, students, we realized that there is very little awareness of giftedness, of the idea of aptitudes or providing enrichment and so on. So parents and educators have had a fairly lonely time. We also realized that no one organization seems to have all the answers or the resources to address the needs of gifted students. So that is why, apart from the 4 founding members, we have other organizations which are part of Gifted India Network, and we recommend them for resources. There are psychologists on our panel. There are medical doctors who have expertise in certain areas. So that is as far as the Gifted India Network goes. So every 2 or 3 months, we have been doing a talk from an expert or bringing in parents to talk about their issues, challenges, their needs. So the idea is to create a larger awareness among people. So Sapna, if you can just share the YouTube link of the Gifted India Network. It's there on the Google Doc. So you will see the recordings of the past talks there, and even this will be, the recording will be put up after this session. So let me go ahead and introduce Dr. Itishree Mishra, who's with us today. So I met her about, I think, 4 years ago through a common friend. And Itishree, it was great to meet her because not only she is an expert in the field of psychology, having developed several psychometric assessments, she also has a lot of practical knowledge, having counseled more than 1 lakh students, having worked in schools. She's a mother of 2 daughters, one of them who is quite gifted. So she combines, I would say, cutting edge theory with practice. One of our co-founders, 2 children have taken her psychometric assessment and been counseled by her, and it was very insightful and useful. So she's been an outstanding academic scholar. She completed her PhD in applied psychology in record time. She was awarded the gold medal by Delhi University for her work. And she's developed various psychometric tests and tools over the years. As I said, she's conducted career counseling for more than 1 lakh students in various schools across India. And she's also worked for industry on developing assessments used for recruitment, talent development, to screen entrepreneurs, and various research projects, UNDP, UGC, NCRT, Ministry of Welfare of the Indian government. So I think she's the right person to sort of, especially one is to educate us about what these aptitudes, personality, interests, what all these terms are. There are a lot of common misconceptions and ideas about this, and hopefully, I mean, it's a deep subject, and today we will probably be only able to scratch the surface. But even in scratching the surface, hopefully some misconceptions will be cleared and we will have some direction. And I think one, to educate us on these things, she's one of the ideal people to do that. The other thing is, she's looked very closely at different careers. So she runs an organization called mapmycareer.in, and they have very carefully looked at different careers in different fields, what kind of aptitude, interests, personalities are needed. So they are able to help children and maybe even adults to look at how to find the thing which fits you best. So with that, without further ado, we will get started with the session. So Itishree, thanks for taking out time, and welcome to this session. So please, maybe you can just start off by telling us maybe a little bit more about yourself, apart from what I have shared, and this whole area of aptitudes, personality, interests, skills. We use these terms interchangeably. And maybe you can even tell us what are some common ways in which these things are misunderstood. And yeah, so just please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Vishnu, for your kind words. And I welcome all the participants. As a professional, I always believe that learning never ends. I mean, and we learn together. I mean, gone are the days where we used to read books, acquire knowledge. But today, in the today world, since informations are overloaded, one need to be carefully discussing thing and understanding rather than only having your own insight and how you understand. You know, I have been in this field for 20 plus years, and besides that, I'm a good researcher. Fortunately, I got very good practical training from the people who used to teach in Delhi University, and also from different, you can say, from social welfare, running NGOs, and I was exposed to a lot of learning. You know, when I used to be a student, I had a hungry for learning. So I think I could study 16 hours. I never used to get tired. So many, I mean, one of my friend who is a very good genetic professor once asked me that, what motivates you to learn? What motivates you to constantly learning and writing your thesis? I mean, I find a student throw up, even the best student, they don't cope up. They actually make a lot of mistakes. I said, probably my teachers. My teachers, I'll tell you, you know, before I start explaining things which are technical, which has technical, or I can say jargon words for the rest of the world, besides psychologists and other professional educationists. I'll tell you one thing, a small story I always, I mean, it is also told by many great people. So there is a class where students are named as 9 to 0. Okay. One day 9 felt that he is the most, I mean, talented guy, and he's the eldest in the class. So he went and slapped 8. And 8 asked, why did you slap me? He said, you are younger than me. That's why I slapped. Then 8 went to 7, 7 went to 6, 6 went to 5. Then they reached 1. Okay. And 2 slapped 1. But 1 didn't slap 0. What he did is, he saw that 0 has considered himself as a differently or special kid, okay, and sitting in a corner, isolating himself. And the one went to him. Then 0 said, okay, since everybody is slapping each other, you slap me also. It's okay with me. But 1 didn't slap. He went and sat besides the 0. Then say that, look, we have become 10. Okay, and we are eldest in the class. So as a parent, as a psychologist, as an educationist, as a teacher, I always felt and experienced also when I used to be a student, that you have to become 1 and sits besides the child, not in front of the child, not ahead of the child or behind the child. You know, always we define support system as I'm behind somebody. You know, generally there is a successful lady, there is a man behind, there is a successful man, woman behind, successful children, parents behind. I feel we all equal. Horizontally, you grow. You know, many times I felt that I used to be extremely good student, and I'm still feel that I'm proud of it. It is I mean, probably my parents and teacher gave me all those. And yes, probably I was gifted academically, intellectually. So my memory was good, and I had good teacher who could explain me, and I could understand very fast. Okay. So that way, I felt always special about it. But only one thing I always felt that, you know, as a parent or as a teacher, we have paucity of time. And many a times I felt that I have learned a lot of things from my children, how to bring them up. Rather than as a psychologist, I never boasted that I know things and I will impose certain things with them. Sometimes to make discipline, I have to tell certain things, but to limit certain things because I have to balance. But thing is that you learn, you know, many parents asked me that how I have helped my children. You really don't help children. Even the teacher do not teach the children. It is a kind of, you can say we have biases. We just create environment for them. Learning is very mysterious and everybody find out their way of learning. The children who are intellectually sound, they crack how to actually learn. And some children need help. Maybe they are intellectually very sound, but they are not able to crack the kind of, the way they should learn, the way should they orient themselves to get marks or orient themselves to get good rank in an entrance exam. So that doesn't mean they are not good. In my experience, I have seen the student who have multiple aptitude, they are not able to actually get good academic marks. I cannot say, but that reduce also their, you can say, confidence to do well. And I have seen also the children who have only one or two aptitude do academically very well, but if they are not handhold with their personality, with their confidence, later on in life, they get confused, frustrated, and do not do well. And also their third category, where they have right kind of aptitude, but you know, they, because of the personality, because of the confidence, because of their diligent behavior, they don't do score well or don't do academically well, but when they reach career, they do fantastic. So as a professional, I always believe that every child has a capability to do things. Some may be extremely good or innovators or intellectually gifted, or some may be very average children, but they have a fantastic personality. Or there are certain students who do not have aptitude to do things academically well, but they do a fantastic in their career. Maybe leadership, they're gifted with leadership quality. They're gifted as an orator. They're gifted in as a different motor. Because giftedness is not one. It is not a marks which says 130 IQ, hai to gifted. But giftedness has 5 to 6 parameters to look into it. I request all parents, when they get their children diagnosed, ask pertinent question to the experts. In what way my child is gifted? Is it a information processing? It is a motor skill? It is an academic pursuit? It is a creativity? What way they are gifted in? So that you can bridge the gap. Okay. So these are thing, I, as a parent or as a professional, I mixed my knowledge from parenting, from my academic, and also since, as I said, that I had always hunger for learning. Besides my academic, I used to visit a school. I used to interact with a lot of intellectuals. I used to write papers, and I used to participate. Even I used to go and watch drama. So all those things I helped me as a psychologist to gauge into a child. That's why I could develop with my practical experience, and my knowledge from academics helped me to develop certain tests. And also I interacted more than, I think, 100, 200 people who are doing extremely well in their profession, and gaining knowledge from them how they actually do it, and also not doing well, or the children who blossom late. So these are the, I can talk, this is my background, I can talk about it, Vishnu. I think we can take up one by one
Yeah,
question from you.
yeah. No,
Otherwise,
that's
it will become a monologue.
no. That's what you shared is, I think, quite interesting and relevant, because this term gifted is so loaded, right? So people then feel that if somebody is gifted, are they not? Is somebody not gifted, and so on. But I think you explained it quite well that some people need help. They may not know how to learn, and just helping them knowing how to learn may sort of really help them. And some kinds of things perhaps are not checked in school, right? Whether it's, as you said, leadership capability, working with people. So, and I think we don't yet have all the final answers in this area. So, the first question I have for you, because I know that I myself have struggled with these terms, because I'm in this field for some time, I think a little more clarity I have. But there is some confusion about words like aptitude, skill, uh, then there is personality, there is interest. So, what do these terms mean? And are some of these things, they don't change throughout life, or some of these things can they change? So, if you can educate us on some of the basic terminology here.
Yeah, it's a right question, I think. Many people confused the academic aptitude and a psychometric aptitude. So academic aptitude, they said that if you call many entrance prep institute or other institute, they call it as a aptitude test to pass an entrance. Okay, it's generally MCQ based and utilize some of the skill set. For example, I have to do well in numerical or verbal reasoning, numerical reasoning, and other things. That is, then they can be trained. They learn shortcut, or they are exposed to good vocabulary, comprehension skills. These are skills. But aptitude, psychometrically, what we assess is that all of us are born with certain potential to learn easily and quickly. Through training, I might learn to a certain extent, but if it is matching to my inherent potential, then I learn it easily and quickly. And as a professional, I always tell parents and students that putting efforts, one can learn anything in life. But if you have a potential and you take up those kind of activity, then it becomes easy for you to learn, and quickly you learn. Generally when we learn certain things easily and quickly, we are motivated to learn. And we get energy to learn. And after some times, you know how to put efforts and how much efforts you have to put in. And as I said that aptitude also, when we assess, it is not an individual aptitude. It is a comparative aptitude. It has been compared because tests are standardized, it has a reliability factor, it has a validity factor, which is very difficult to actually check as a common person, because that there are a lot of statistical jargon to it. And the people who do not do the continuous research, probably sometime it is a fixed one. I think the test developed in 1970 has a fixed reliability validity, but we don't research, we don't re-research, we don't add on things. So as a professional, what I could say that, and also the reality is that even if the child have one aptitude, a career can be planned. At least one area he is good with, then other area can be developed, the skill can be developed. But it is very essential to identify those. What happens is, as a parents, I actually juggle between the aspiration, interest, and the ability of my child. And also misunderstand that if my child is doing academically well, will do extremely well in the career. But sometimes also mishap happens. I mean, suddenly the child become very academically low performer. Suddenly the child has shifted the interest or get motivated to do certain things. Although as I parents, I always, most of the parents, I feel the challenge of convincing them to assess their children, because they feel that many parents do not believe that there is psychometric process to assess it. That is one. Second, they feel if the interest is not matching or my aspiration is not matching to the test, what will happen? Nothing will happen. At least there is one thing is that, yes, if my aspiration or interest of the child or my interest in the which I want to impose on the child is not matching with the aptitude, then I'm aware of it that where to work on. But in my experience, I find that if that is the case, many students get those kind of mishaps. I mean, if there is a mismatch. And the researcher also believe that we can develop, we all are born with certain aptitude. We are gifted, we can say, with a lot of potentials. And till you'll be surprised to know, till 6 years of age, it get reflected in a child. And if the learning environment or the parental communication or teacher communication is adequate, most of the aptitude which are inherent get reflected and some remain hidden. And it keeps on growing till the child at 10, 13 years of age. After that, it gets concretized. Even if you give a lot of good environment, it might not come out or reflect in your child. So in that case, if we find that, yes, and that's why we do the assessment at the age of 13. So that we know what are the aptitude which are reflected in a particular student, which are not reflected.
So Itishree, a couple of questions. So you explained that aptitude is something which is innate, which comes more easily. Someone else can learn it, but a lot of effort is needed. Now, you mentioned this diagnosis, and there could be, various assessments. So are these formalized assessments the only way to identify aptitudes? Are there other ways? What is the age when parents should think about getting these assessments done?
Yeah, I'll tell you, one is that one can do that. One can observe the child, one can do that. But am I not getting biased is a question. How I'm observing is a question. And what are the parameters I'm taking is a question. For example, if as a parent, I think that since my child is doing good in mathematics, then he can actually get into engineering or mathematics oriented career. Then sometimes it becomes mishap. I always ask students that, how much you got in mathematics? Says, I'm excellent in mathematics. I always get 90 plus. What about English? He says, I managed to 85, 80, 85, and I'm good in that, but I'm excellent in mathematics. Then I ask question that, how much effort do you put in mathematics? He says, I learn in class, I come back and do my homework, I go to tuition, I get, or I ask my parents. Then generally I practice, and during exam, I practice 3 to 4 hours, or maybe 10 to 12 hours in a week. Okay. And that is the way I learn mathematics. And I say, what about English? Oh, English. I just learned before the exam. Okay. So I said, beta, where is the strength? It is English or it is mathematics? You're putting a lot of efforts, and the other way around happens also. English doesn't happen to some children because of their ability to learn language, vocabulary, all those things. Mathematics happens very easily. Okay, so that's why it is, as I said, that one can do it. Also, there are, if you look at the developmental theory, children develop certain things with certain age. There are parameters.
Correct.
Okay. If the parents is very aware of that, reads about it, and also have a practical knowledge how to assess the child, then one can do it. I mean, one can do it. And also, as I said, that how I look at academics. Am I looking at the effort equal to the results? Or if I'm, that is a practical way of observation. Or am I looking at the teacher versus the marks? Who is teaching? The consistency from class 1 to class 6, how he acquire marks or the behavior part. Okay. So there is an observation. And also, if I talk about personality also, we all have all kind of personality. But some personality trait or behavior are very natural to us. But unlike aptitude, personality can be modified. For example, I'm not very confident. Confidence can be built in. If I'm not very alternative thinkers, that can be also taught to the certain extent. As I said, basically that it cannot be changed, but it can be modified. That is personality. If I look at the interest is very dynamic and floating. If you look at your children, they are very confident when they are very young, before 10-year-old. They know exactly what they want to do. And they will also talk about things where they get exposed to. Many children want to become teacher, doctor, or a pilot, whatever exposure they have, but they were very confident and very have a clarity what they want. But when they reach 10 years of age and the socialization process starts in, we as experts say that a 10-year kid can learn anything, even the higher physics. That is the capability of growing personality, growing intellectual ability, growing everything. Okay. So in that case, they get confused. Because you can say that, like if you take the example of information overloaded, here intellectual and socialization overloaded. So that in that age, is parent capable of observing the child, how he's behaving, how he's taking things academically, getting frustrated or academically doing well, or really interested certain hobbies. And what are the things pickups very easily? You don't have to force. So if I have an observation schedule and mark it and do it, and also expose the child according to the interest, then the child develop a very deeper interest in that. For example, I'm an entrepreneur. I want to become my child an entrepreneur. I ask parents, have you taken your child to visit your office? Or have you shown what you do? I know when my child was 5-year-old, went to my husband's office, he says, she came back and told me, Papa, do not work at actually. He just signs.
Yeah.
He signs papers and come back. I want to become Papa because I have to just sign and come back. Then we had to explain how he reached that place. So discussion is, perception of the child is very pure and simple. So have you really discussed the process many times? And many times also, my child always wanted to become a doctor, but once she visited with my mother-in-law to a hospital, saw the doctor is screaming at people. She says, nothing doing, I don't want to, I have to scream. I don't want to become a doctor. A little exposure can trigger the child and replace the interest. So developing interest also, you have to see how it is replacing, why, who, what are the factors you have to discuss with it. Is it a peer influence? It's a, sometimes I have an idol in my, within me. Is it influence? Or it is a like kind of vivid imagination that I want to get into it. I'm not very sure about it. Very recently, I interacted with a child who is in Hong Kong. Actually, he didn't want to, he has a varied kind of interest, intellectually very good, but he didn't know what to do. And we found through the assessment that he has a very high abstraction skill. So his problem solving capacity is so good, he doesn't study actually. He just then and then resolve things and get marks. But he's not a very high performer, but he's not a bad performer. But a little bit trigger helped him to think where he has to get end result. And he planned. When he started planning at the age of 9, then he knew what are the academics effort he has to put, what are the things he has to plug in.
So Itishree, can you elaborate a little bit more on this for our participants? Because everybody may not understand what abstraction skill means. So if you can explain what is this abstraction aptitude, how can you have it but still not perform well in academic tasks, and then how the gap got bridged. If you can share in some more detail, I think everyone will understand this.
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit more about aptitude test, what we assess actually. We assess nearly 10 aptitude in a child. Till now, it is accessible. Okay, we call it mechanical, we call it spatial, we call it abstract, language, verbal, visual, and then we have memory for design and operational. Okay. So these are the aptitude where the child get assessed to. If I said mechanical is nothing to do with only making machines. It's also understanding machine, maintaining the machine, making the machine. There are a lot of parameters to check. But the child is generally hands-on. He may not be very comprehensive, verbal about it, but very hands-on child. If you look at the space, the structural imagination is very high. If you look at the child geometrical process, structure, they understand very quickly. Then if you look at abstraction, it is a problem solving skill or predicting solution to a problem. It may be an arithmetic problem, it may be a situational problem, it may be a mechanical problem, it may be anything. That ability to solve Of late, I took analysis of nearly 2000 kids of very premier school. I was very upset for 1 week because we know we are training the children more on mathematics and language and verbal, but abstraction is missing. What will happen is they will do extremely well in academics. But when you get into the career, most of the career require abstraction reasoning.
Okay.
Because you have to actually use your knowledge to function something or make it happen. It's not writing exam. You are doing things, you are applying knowledge, you are managing people. Okay. That's why gauging a problem is also abstraction building. And predicting a solution also a abstract reasoning.
So I would think that if the math questions, the science questions, the exams are asking the right kind of questions and the teaching is right, the abstraction skill should also be developed, right, in that process?
Yes. Yes.
But unfortunately, they're not okay like that.
Because we are more concerned about, obviously, the objective of the school is to give the best result. Or as a parents also, we feel elated or good when the child brings 100%. You know, I asked a very good question to all very great mathematics teacher. I asked that if a child get 100 in maths, do you think they know maths? Everybody said no.
Okay, so they were not surprised. They know the students and they know how
they know it. But unfortunately, their job is to enable the child to get marks.
So this Hong Kong boy is not doing that part, which will get him 90 or 100 in maths, but innate ability is there. Okay.
He was getting 100 in maths, but not comprehending or saying and explaining how it is happening. He's a high abstraction guy.
Okay.
Fortunately, okay. Because he is into the contemporary, and the parents are also very, that way.
Okay. Okay. So, so do you recommend that parents get formal tests done even at a younger age? 13, you said, is a good age. But even at 8, 9, 10, does it make sense at a younger age? Should one get them assessed or only under certain conditions?
13 years of age actually reach 8th standard, okay? 8 to 9 standard. Assessments needs to be done in that age.
Okay.
But for example, a child comes to a psychologist, I say that study pattern. For example, you must be facing a lot of problem with gifted children. Because many gifted children do not socialize well. Okay, so they don't ask question in the class. They don't interact with, so they're frustrated actually, because nobody understands their instruction. For example, they're solving certain thing, they cannot really explain how they actually solve the question. So thing is that many times what happens is, if you come to, you may not get testing, aptitude testing before 13, but the other test can happen. For example, or a kind of, we call it individual academic plan.
Okay. Okay.
On the basis of certain interview or the parental interview or the child interest, you can have an individual learning plan or individual allocating engagement for a child. We can do it in the early age. As I said that at this age of 6, he has already imbibed every aptitude. So thing is that, and there is no book for parenting. And there is no one way of parenting. It depends on the what kind of child you have, and you have to parent that way. So that is, it is not only assessment, but there are observation schedule.
Correct.
And
Correct.
you should make a note what are the kind of question you asked the teacher while PTM. So those guys, I used to always, my father-in-law used to accompany me, and because my husband is a scientist, he always be away from the kid. My father-in-law used to accompany me in PTM, and he used to come back and tell me, they tell me why parent complain to the teacher that wo ghar pe kya karta hai, what he does at home. How the child will control, how the teacher will control that. So pertinent questions, noting, the teacher also should know that how to answer them.
Yes, you've spoken about observation, but you have pointed out that observation is not such a simple matter. Parents may sometimes need to have some background knowledge, which they may not have. They have to do it systematically. You also spoke about exposure. Like exposure can work both ways. Like if you do not process what Papa was doing when signing papers, or that there are other doctors who don't screen, then it can switch off a child from a certain thing. So this is quite interesting, and also I can understand that parents may get a little stressed out about it, because I may not discover that my child has this strong, good aptitude for abstraction if in a sort of a typical school that is never being, checked. If everything is, rote based and so on, it is not checked. Maybe after this conversation, we can even send some resources to parents. Some of them are already asking in the chat that where can we get the test done, what maybe your organization or something we can recommend. But one quick question before we move on, or two questions. One is, I think you said that aptitude you can't really change much. You can develop skill. You said that personality also can be changed. And interests, you said, is related to aptitude. So a little bit more, if you can talk about these 3-4 things, and maybe if you can give an example of how aptitude and skill are different, that will also help.
Yeah, as I said that it is an inherent ability to learn easily and quickly. For example, if you give task or activity to a child, if he or she does very quickly and without effortlessly, we can say, then you can say that yes, it is an indicative of doing things. But if you say that training aptitude, meaning that if you look at the training, all of them teach shortcuts of, for example, you take abacus. Even the younger kids go to abacus class. And do you think all can benefit from the abacus? But there are certain children get actually enhanced skill from abacus. So that indicates the difference. For example, a teacher comes to the class, teach everybody in a similar manner in the young. But some children understand certain things very well, certain things they do not understand. Okay, some children are very talkative, some children are very observant. Okay, so those kind of, that gives a difference between aptitude and skills. Skills are the things how I actually solve mathematical question, how I remember. For example, if you teach a child how to calculate mentally, probability speed go enhanced in the entrance exam. So they try to, although we always criticize ki memorize nahi karna hai, but I believe that certain things needs to be memorized. In the older day, my mother used to teach us a lot of Sanskrit sloka to remember. Probably that enhanced my memory skills. And you and me knows that memory works to a certain extent.
So you're saying that because of the working memory limitations of how many chunks you can hold and so on, some kind of maybe multiplication tables or memorizing some Sanskrit shlokas is actually helping to develop something.
That is a training which gives certain things, certain skill to enhance. Okay, for example, solving mentally maths or solving quickly certain things. But ability to deal with arithmetic or numerical reasoning is totally different. It is not MCQ learning. It is looking at the math problem and doing it own way. Many children gives their own way of solving it. You don't have to teach them. That is aptitude. Okay. That is called aptitude. Something went wrong.
Yeah, I think somebody was unmuted. Yeah, please go on.
Oh, yeah. So as I was giving example, if I'm teaching math class, the child who has an aptitude for mathematics solve of their own way or quickly solve better than you or faster solve. Whereas if I learn a skill, I still manage to do the speed, but I cannot extend that speed to all similar kind of problem.
Got it.
Are you getting it?
Yeah, yeah.
So I can trend one way of doing things, but I really cannot
yeah,
teach
it's like
aptitude in a way.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, there are some guitars hanging behind me. I'm not a very talented musician. So some songs I can play quite well, right? Just if you listen only to that song, you will think I'm a musician. But a musician can very quickly pick up the next song. But for me, I have to take 3 months and learn from someone else. So something like that. Yeah.
For example, if you expose a child who is has a musical, I also test that auditory aptitude. Okay. And he has a good mechanical skills. Only you have to teach 1 or 2 songs to the child, or how to actually play the finger with the guitar. The rest he will manage.
Yes.
Because he has a ear for listening to music. Yes, he understands rhythm, he understands sound, the pitch, the frequency. But what me as without aptitude learn is how to play 1 or 2 songs.
Correct. Right.
So that is a skill
you develop
to play guitar. And there is a other child with auditory and mechanical aptitude. You just teach them, they take to the 4 level high.
Got it. So I think aptitude and skill is fairly clear. So maybe you can tell us about personality and interest. Yeah.
Personality, as I said, the natural behavior. For example, I'm an introvert person. Okay. Many people who know me closely, they know that I'm an introvert person. But I have learned how to actually behave as a extrovert person. But still, as a psychometry process, we defined extroversion totally differently. We said that extrovert is a person, he may or may not be a good public speaker, but he gains energy from people when he is in the crowd. He gets motivated to do things when he is with friends or peers. That is an extrovert. So when there is a demand from my profession, I learned how to behave as an extrovert person. I made myself comfortable with the stranger. I try to gain motivation from people, but still I cannot share my own feeling.
Okay, so you can, when required for the job, you can do that, but you're not getting energy from that thing. Yeah. So you can change for some time and strategically, but that's not the basic
it can be
nature.
modified. For example, I'm not an alternative thinker, but I'm an entrepreneur. I still can manage to average way how to alternatively think and solve my business problem. But a high alternative thinker will give you 10 solutions. But I might give you 2 solutions because I'm a modified creative person.
Okay. Interesting.
For example, for example, I said that I have a visual aptitude. I have an inherent capability, But somebody needs to teach me the technique to do a good painting or a good structural thing. But if I have an inherent talent and my personality is artistic, I can grab it well. Aptitude help you to learn easily, quickly. Personality help you to perform well.
Okay.
For example, I'm not an extrovert. Probably I prepare myself to face the crowd. But an extrovert will go and start.
The extrovert may have to prepare some other part, which you may
No,
not.
content part. Content part.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
mentally, he
Mentally
doesn't
doesn't have to
have.
psych himself or herself up for this thing.
Hype up. I prepare myself that, okay, you have to face the crowd, go get it.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. And interests, where do interests lie?
Interest, as I said, it is influenced most of the time.
Okay.
But there are few children who have a deeper interest. They actually performance. Through performing that, for example, I have seen one child who wanted to build up a hotel in Dubai. When he was in third standard, he told me that. Although I helped him to how to get into it, but he actually built a hotel. Wow. He's a very good chef.
Okay. And in third standard, he said this.
Okay. Third standard, he decided to become a chef.
Okay.
But there are a lot of students who wants to become pilot, but by the time they reach ninth standard, they lose interest in mathematics and physics and drop their interest.
Okay.
So one needs to check if it is an influenced interest or a deeper interest.
Okay, influenced interest or a deeper interest. Okay, or maybe you think you're interested, but when you realize the amount of effort you have to put in, that could also be an issue.
Because I'm not aware of my strength. I never worked on my weakness. As I said that when I speak to a child in 9th standard or 8th standard, I only speak about strength in aptitude.
Okay.
Not weakness in the aptitude.
Correct.
Because if you speak on the strength, they believe it, they observe themselves, they work towards that and do it. Because I know as a professional, they have to just, for example, every career require a combination of aptitude.
Correct.
In my experience,
can you give us an example? Take a career.
Yeah, I'll say that you want to become a mechanical engineer, for example.
Okay.
So it is a requirement of mechanical, space, and mathematical, because assessment always there. You need to have a reasoning for that. Structural thinking needs to there, because always you cannot open a machine and see it. You have to gauge. Then mechanical, yes, about machine, interested in machine, fixing machine, all those kind of things. So a mechanical engineer require this kind of combination of aptitude, do excellent. But if it is a mechanical space and abstract, making machine will never happen. Because he will find mistake every time he make a machine. So he will dismantle it. So that child, it's a different kind of career path.
So there is a question on chat which is very relevant to our discussion now. So we have understood what all these things are. Now there are various popular science boliye or popular books on this subject. For example, there is this book, Talent is Overrated, Jeffrey Colvin, and somebody in the chat has just talked about deliberate practice. So there are some people who say that, but if you do this 10,000 hours or deliberate practice, we can master anything. Right? So then why bother about aptitude or something? So what would be your response?
Yes. I don't know if the parents also needs to read how to decode talent. In early as it is possible. As I said that, for example, there are inherent talent. I think I had a discussion earlier also that till 4-year-old, all children are very good, extremely good as compared to rest of the world, Indian children. But by the time they reach school and reach class 1, most of them become average. Okay. So decoding talent is also what kind of exposure training, broad-based training, you're exposing the child. Okay, if you can do that, you can decode those aptitude. But if you start at 13 or 14 years of age, where all of them are concretized, even if the best teacher cannot help. Before development you give, talent can come. Even if I'm average, probably that inherent, for example, there are supportive also. For example, I'm very language oriented. And at the 10th, I know how to write, but I don't communicate logically. Verbal aptitude is communicating logically, not communication. Communication is a personality. Okay. So then if I teach a child how to comprehend, expose the child to the debates, expose the child to different things, probably I can actually help the child to get into those kind of aptitude, reflect in me. So earlier the better.
Right. So yeah, so what I get from this is the earlier you go and provide the exposure, this thing, talent may matter less, but later it matters more and more. If
more and more.
Yeah.
And when you get into the career, it matters more.
Correct. Yeah, so thanks for that question, Varalakshmi, and we can have an email conversation on this. And the deliberate practice also is misunderstood. It is actually very specific. When they say deliberate practice, it's not just practicing guitar or math for so many hours. It has to be done in a particular way, and we can talk about that offline.
I'm actually there is a irony that obviously, for example, I'm training a child to get into IIT at the age of 10. Okay. So I'm preparing the child for science, maths, and I'm putting effort, deliberate effort, 10 hours effort. And that child gets into IIT. Vishnu, you are an IITian. You tell me how many people actually naturally succeed as an engineer?
Well, that's a great question, because recently I was talking to Dr. V. Vinay, who's a very good engineer. And he has been asking me and many people in the industry, top people, he asked I can't reveal the name of this person. He asked one of the very senior directors of an IIT. There are 7.5 lakh engineers, engineering seats in the country. So he asked the director of this IIT that how many competent or decent engineers come out every year. And the estimates are between 2,000 and 10,000 when 7.5 lakh engineering graduates are coming out. So yes, I agree with you that
not only that, around the world also 70% engineers, they do something else. I'm saying getting into IIT or engineering is good because they get trained in a different way. They know how to challenge in a group project. Correct. They know how to communicate, how to convince, how to persuade. And around the world, 70% of the engineers, they don't pursue engineering. They pursue something else. So I'm saying deliberately they want to make them engineers, but they don't become. They ultimately, many people get insight into it and pick up by chance to the profession they're good at.
Right.
Okay. And also another irony is I may be capable of doing 10 careers. If I have 4 to 5 combination of aptitude. So within that, even giving a deeper interest to the kid is a phenomenal task. The child comes back to you every time. I'll give you an example. Extremely good aptitude kid came to me in 2000. Okay. I suggest that the parents that he needs to get into administrative line. He's very good at and put him in humanities and he will do extremely well. But unfortunately, because they had a army background, and that point of time, there was a hype of a lot of chef coming in and all. The child went to hotel management. And the personality of the child was so troublesome. It shifted from the extrovert to introvert. It shifted to the confidence to low confidence. It shifted to creativity to nothing doing.
Okay.
Because he was not a hands-on child. He was more academically oriented child.
So was the
His,
assessment showing that
yeah,
he would not be suited for
it
hotel
shows.
management, which is a much more hands-on thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Then I told him that you are, because you are already got in and you have a capability, do the course. And after that, he went to doing MBA and extremely doing good in investment banker, as investment banker in somewhere in the European country.
So are you saying that this child had multiple aptitudes, so the process of finding the deeper interest was a little harder? Is that?
It was an influenced
interest versus a deeper
because
interest.
I went to a school in Hyderabad and a lot of intellectual children were there. All of them wanted to get into gaming industry because Ravan, I think the cinema came in that point of time. That is an influenced interest.
Right.
And people like I went to a school in Noida, all of them wanted to become statistician. Because, people like us said it's a hot career, it's an upcoming career, a lot of jobs are available. But thing is that I really cannot change the market, job market. It changes, you and me knows that changes in 90 days. But what is constant with me is my aptitude, my personality. And if I know myself well, I can adjust to the market. But market do not adjust to me.
Right.
And there are certain career also which are hyped. But if you look at it, those careers were available. But there are additional skills you need to develop to get into those careers.
Got it. So I have a couple of last questions. Then parents have asked a lot of questions which I had sent you to in Excel. So we'll go and address some of those questions after that. But before that, so what can a parent do? Let's say that they take this assessment at the age of 13. They know, that certain aptitudes are there and certain personality interests are there. So how can they nurture this aptitude and help to go towards achievement? Is it certain kind of exposure they have to provide? Does the child need to develop certain executive function skills? If so, what can parents do? What can teachers do?
First of all, one thing I always request the parents is to encourage the child. Okay. And encourage needs to be personalized. Okay. You cannot say that you are the best daughter in the world. You say you are my best daughter. Personalized. Or I think, let's discuss that why you are facing problem. Where is the problem? For example, I was telling you the other day that I get 30 marks in my maths. But my aptitude lies for engineering. Okay, parents get disheartened, child get disheartened. But there are 16 to 20 discipline in engineering. That is a later part I can pick up. But irony is that the child needs to be tested on physics, chemistry, and mathematics. Okay, so you get worried. So first of all, you have to see that where is the problem, from where he got the 30 marks. And you have to analyze it, where he's lacking and how to bridge the gap. just making a generalized comment that you don't put effort doesn't really help child. Mothers, I mean, I do also complain because we are naturally brought up like that. Okay. We always complain that you waste your time on phone, on this and that. But we miss one check is that why he's spending time there. A child need help in academic, and what kind of help, how, study planning, time management, not able to solve, that as a parent needs to discuss and freeze it on priority basis. That is a good encouragement. It's not that, okay, you will do well. I know, I'm sure about it. That has no meaning to the child. And many times we give lot of instruction together. Not one by one. The child get helpless. It's again an information overloaded. It's an emotional overloaded. You know, when you as a parent are feeling bad that child is getting 30, as a child, you think for a moment how he or she is feeling. Either he will go to the avoidance behavior, math करना ही नहीं है, engineer बनना नहीं है, ठीक है. Even I have seen many a times what happens is, even if I have a aptitude, there are situations, it is a 1 day, 3 hours exam, okay? People don't get through. But what are the alternative things I can still do and manage that environment? There are two ways, and also it is said that researchers have proved that if there are unused aptitude remain with you, there are a lot of chances, a fair chances, 95% of the chances you get dissatisfied with, even if you are doing extremely well in your career and you drop that career.
Okay. If you're not using your aptitudes, even if you're doing well in a career, you could be quite dissatisfied.
Dissatisfied, and you cannot really sustain in that career for longer time.
Ah, very interesting. Very interesting. Yeah. We have also seen research like that. So I'm going to go to some of the parent questions which are relevant to this. So there is one parent who's asking that the child is not doing very well in math. So how can we know if the child is really weak at math, or is it just lack of practice or bad teaching or something? Is there something else, or is the child really doesn't have aptitude for math? So is there some way to make that out?
If the child is 13 years of age, it's need to do the psychometry test. Okay. And it is exactly tells the parents that it is a arithmetic which is a problematic, or it's a algebra, or it's a geometry. Then parent can, for certain, for example, 10th standard or 12th standard, he has to manage maths. Okay. For example, I'm extremely good in mechanical, but still I have to manage math to become a mechanical engineer. Or you can say design engineer. I'm extremely good at making machines. I have to, actually, mathematics is a support system and it can be taught, but you have to find out what are the area he needs help.
Okay.
So assessment is good way to looking at the area of help. Second is that individual planning of study. In a week, I mean, if you bombard with only mathematics every day, the child will run away. Yeah. So how to look at the books and how to actually fix priority and how to engage the child. And also there are way to learn or memorize things. Actually, memory is very natural. It is with everybody. We actually tell ourselves that we don't remember things because we haven't put it inside our brain in a systematic manner. Or always I said that there is a readiness for school. There is a readiness for child to study 3 hours. That nerdiness needs to be fixed by the parents.
Right. So actually it's already 7:10 and we plan to close at 7:30. So what I'll do is I'll request the parents here who are in the meeting to ask their questions. You can unmute yourself and ask, or if you prefer to ask on chat, that's fine. So does anybody have any questions? If nobody asks questions, I have a list of questions which you have sent during registration. In that case, I will, use those.
Good evening, Itishree ma'am. Good evening, Vishnu sir.
Yeah, please go ahead. Yeah.
I have a question that if a child is good at all the subjects equally, and he's doing well with all the subjects, though the child is confused with the decision that what he should opt for. So what would be the suggestion?
Yeah. What we do is, as I said, already discussed that many children have all the aptitude. And getting marks is totally different than having aptitude. Okay. So aptitude actually can predict that what are the career he or she needs to pursue so that he easily and quickly perform in the career. Okay. It's a predictability. Okay, that is one. Second is, as I said, that many children do extremely well in all subjects because they know how to crack the exam. But understanding of subject or understanding of something, the aptitude only indicates. So even if a child has all aptitude, we find, then we get the highest aptitude and highest personality. First, we match with the interest. And if interest is matching, we give it. Otherwise, we suggest the career he can do extremely well. And as I said, that there are situations which might, for example, 3 hours exam, he doesn't crack. So what are the steps he needs to take? The career path. Okay, the total career path we need to actually reach.
So Itishree, one more participant, Krishna, he has asked a question which is related to what you were just answering. How to take the psychometric test? What are the charges and what information do we get from the test? So maybe you can elaborate a little bit more on the kind of output, and this may be an opportunity for you to talk about the parent aspirations. You said a mishap can happen where the parent aspiration is different. Maybe that example of hotel management was something similar. So maybe you can talk a bit about the psychometric test and what kind of things they can expect from that.
Yeah, the test is like that. You have to actually separate the admission counseling to the career advisory program. College admission counseling comes later. Okay. But the first of all, you need to decide on the what are the career. What we do is we assess the child in 10 aptitude, 28 personality trait, and there is a combination which came from the research, that what are the combination, a type of aptitude and type of personality the child has, and then we expose more than 250 interests to the child with a little definition, because we don't want to influence the child in certain way. Okay. So, but he should know, many children also research and knows how to do it, what are the things they are interested. So in the career advisory process, we give a detailed report. What are the strengths in aptitude? What are the strengths in personality? What are the areas we believe that the personality can be modified? We also say that anger management, self-confidence, how they can develop. So there is also certain pointers given in the report that how to develop those areas which the person is low in. For example, I might be extremely good till 9th standard, but I drop it because I lose my confidence. I lose diligence, alertness, review, how to review. Those are the traits which is assessed in the personality. Then we give the advice one advice is we give suggestion for 3 career. Okay. It may be a related career. It may be a totally unrelated career. Okay. Second, we give, if we find there is a big gap between academic performance and aptitude, then we give advice on how to plan the study. Okay. Then we discuss on career path. What are the, how one should, what are the combination of subjects? Another important thing is that to decide the best combination after 10th, or if it is a ICSE during 9th standard. Because many children combination aptitude are totally different. So you have to pick and choose the good combination. And if you are in IB or ICGSE, then you can pick up many children also. I ask them to drop chemistry. Only work on physics and mathematics well. Okay. But if it is a engineering, if it is research one, we can always say that one can do it. But if it is a engineering or something, certain eligibility criteria are there. A doctor needs to have a biology or biochemistry, an engineer needs to have a mathematics and physics, chemistry and mathematics. But the fourth combination, for example, I find that child is extremely good in designing things. And we suggest that game designing. Can I pick up any kind of creative subject along with that? Or knowing people, maybe a psychology or economics as a fourth subject. So those combination, for example, I find that extremely good engineer also needs to know economics. There are certain engineering which requires a economic. They need to study the society. Okay, economic planning. So all those, the subject choice, we also give in that report.
Thanks, Itishree. There are a couple of other questions.
And also, I'm sorry, there are also parental observation we capture during the test. And also we capture certain student information asking the student beside the, so that we gauge the totality of the situation and how the child is performing. What are the parental? I always believe that as a parent, I need to aspire for my child. If I don't aspire for my child, whom I aspire for? But how I am communicating to child is important question.
Right.
Am I forcing in my communication, or I'm logically defining why I'm aspiring so?
Thanks. So there are actually quite a few questions. I don't think we can address all of them in the remaining 10 minutes, but we will address some. Maybe we'll respond to others by email. So one thing we have not touched upon so far in much detail is giftedness. Now, everybody has aptitude, but we call some children maybe, gifted. So what is this? And there are a few parents, I think, of gifted children who've written that they are having a challenge, and these children are quite young. One of the parents has been in touch with us for the last 3-4 years. The child was 6 years old that time. So they are facing a challenge that the child is not getting challenged sufficiently. And the child has started saying that I don't like this subject, I don't like that subject, because they're not getting, sufficiently challenged, their interests are not being preserved. So what can be done? So what is giftedness is one question. The second question is, what can parents of younger children do? Gifted children, or for nurturing aptitudes who are 6, 7, 8, 9 years old, what can they do? Yeah.
Gifted children are, you have to actually, the diagnosis needs to be very perfect. It may be assumptional also. Because I may not be, as a parent, I'm not very well versed with how to define giftedness, how to observe the child. I'll tell you a little bit about them. One is, I feel that giftedness may be one way or three way. Maybe the child is extremely intellectual ability is extremely good. The cognitive function is extremely good. Then there is another child who is a visual acuity is extremely good. I mean, creative process, artistically inclination. Okay, many children, the color, the way they color it, we call it that, okay, coloring to sab karte hain. But thing is that just see the dexterity in a child. A small child with a good dexterity. Can I develop actually mechanical skills there? It's not that all children who color well will get into the artistic career. Probably we have to watch that, is it a dexterity or the how he is choosing the color. Many people are motor efficient. You give a lot of puzzles to the children, they just get connected very quickly. And they make certain things about it. I have experience when I used to be also go to the, children who are preschooler. A preschooler will never come to the class. He will be at the gate. And the teacher was really annoyed with me that what kind of child you have given to me. He is never interested in coming to the class, and writing, doing the certain things is far away. So what I did is forcibly I catched him. And I knew the kind of child he is. He's a stutterer.
Stuttering.
And
Okay.
he speaks so quickly. His verbal skill was fantastic. With a lot of good vocabulary. Most of the class do not understand me. Either he will stutter, he will not speak. When he starts speaking, he will use such vocabulary. So teacher won't understand also.
Okay.
So that I could see, and I start engaging him with hands-on activity first. He used to make A, B, C, D through puzzle. Then he got into writing. Okay. So his extreme verbal skill is also a giftedness.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Extreme memorizing. I mean, just you saw it. When I remember when I used to be in school, one of the person who studied psychology took me to a memory drum. And I remember everything. Then she was like, how it is possible? You remember every word here. I just saw you in seconds, fraction of seconds, and you remember. Even they used to give just combination of alphabet. That also I used to remember and tell her. So thing is that you have to first check that giftedness in what sense. I will simply say that it is a mental age is faster than the physical age.
Okay.
A 5-year-old child can also solving arithmetic. Or I have seen a 5-year child writing school class proceeding. Okay, is a gifted child. Okay, that is first you have to ask pertinent question before diagnosis. What way the child is gifted. So that, and there are also 9 parameters. We talk about 2E. Special. Okay. For example, I'm extremely good in mathematics. I only think in numbers. So I may not be able to communicate in, logically. So how to bridge that gap? If I have a great sense of humor, I may be irritable child. Because that comes to me so fast. If I'm a language child, I'm extremely good in language, I pick up things, then I have to engage the child with new vocabulary, something which is different than what he's getting generally. So that is how, first of all, I have to see that what kind of giftedness the person has, not a total assumption that 130 ki IQ hota hai to giftedness hota hai. That's a number.
Yeah. Thanks. So there is one operational question. I think after that we will wrap up, and I will comment quickly on some of the questions I've seen. So the operational question is, some people are saying that they live in Navi Mumbai or somewhere else. So this psychometric test, can they do it online?
Yeah, it is online available. You have to get
Okay.
into www.mapmycareer.in.
Okay.
Okay, if you can write in the chat, Vishnu.
Yeah, I'll just put
And
that in
it
the chat.
is online test, and we connect virtually to do the counseling. Okay.
Okay. So if the child is around 13 years old, they can write to you and get a counseling done with the test and so on. If there are some parents of younger children here, like 6, 7, 8, 9, so can they approach you, or do you have any recommendations for them?
Yeah, they can write me, and virtually I can help them. And
Okay.
also we can create a group actually
Sure, sure.
to help each other. I mean,
Sure.
many parents also, for example, I am very good in creative things. I can actually share my things to anybody else, but
Sure.
too much is not good.
Okay.
It should be age appropriate.
Sure, sure. Thanks, thanks.
Mhm.
So we are already at 7:25. So I will just make some quick comments, and I will ask Sapna to make some announcements, and then we can do a final wrap up.
Okay.
So there are a lot of different questions, and I think we have to do it in some different webinar. We can't address everything. But some of I think the two major categories of questions which we have not addressed too much in detail. One is how do we provide children, give them more exposure, enrichment opportunities. I think Itishree has given a little bit, she has spoken about it. But quickly, I want to share that, and there's a teacher also who's asked about, what can a teacher do better? So I think there are quite a few resources available today, thanks to the internet and other things. So there are resources available. And parents can take their children out the way they have a conversation with them. So for example, your child may watch a YouTube video, do something. Can you learn with them? Can you ask questions? Something comes out. There are programs like ours, residential camps, or online courses. All these things help. We can help you. Maybe we will try to create a list of resources on our website which you can access. I think,
Yeah. Vishnu, sorry to interrupt. As a professional, I feel that you must take a journey of learning, concrete to YouTube and other things. Just look at what is available around.
Right.
Make them a concrete learning there.
Yeah.
Do a nature watch.
Yeah.
Do a vocabulary, what is available around you.
Correct.
If it is in a flower name, plant name, this name, that name. Third is that available of machine at home. So get into, and also because it is very difficult, Vishnu, to collect adequate things from the internet and give to the child.
Right.
And children are so smart nowadays. You just expose YouTube, they will get into somewhere else. Okay. Because research has no end and they have a curious mind. So start with concrete, then look at the child is getting interested in certain things, then select those things from the YouTube or something like that, and somehow handhold initially, after that, and teach the child how to collect information.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. In fact, one of the challenges we have faced, so for example, when we work with children, say engineering or design, we prefer to work with paper or material which they can manipulate, because these are concrete things within their capacity. Their capacity to think about these, do some innovative things is there. But on the other hand, too early, if you give robotics or electronics, they can only follow a recipe. And so sometimes it's not so good to watch YouTube videos about black holes, but to start with these concrete things. unfortunately, those things appear to be more popular, and the aspiration sometimes is like that. So I think I agree with Itishree that there has to be a journey. I'm putting my email ID there because some of the questions are very relevant but very tough. For example, Lakshmi Gandhi has asked, how do we create pedagogically scalable schools to accommodate the gifted? So that's a very difficult question to answer, and also in this time, we'll talk about that separately, Lakshmi. There are a lot of people who also talked about psychosocial skills. And I think that's a very important topic, whether you are gifted or anybody, that becomes very important after a certain stage. So you have the aptitude, but how do you retain motivation? How do you persist through failure and all of that? So Sapna, maybe if you can share some of those, for the announcements. After this, you can make the announcements. But I would encourage you to, so there is a Telegram channel. I will ask Itishree also to join that channel. So we have about, 200 odd subscribers, and some of these parents are already on that. So there we post some information. We have a newsletter which goes out every 3 weeks. There is no easy answer. So many of the answers which Itishree gave, for example, she was there in that school, right? But you may not be so lucky to have someone like that in the school. But we are also trying through this platform, we are trying to make teachers aware. Maybe we will do some teacher trainings as well together. So with that, I'm going to ask Sapna to make some quick announcements. Then we will come back to Itishree for, maybe a wrap up.
Yeah, before that, I want to request all the teachers, all the parents everywhere in the world, trust your child ability. He or she has born with certain ability. Okay, don't become overwhelmed. Some children blossom very early. Some children blossom when they get into career. You need to be patient enough, and your work is to give inputs, but not expect that inputs to come up very quickly.
I think
I assure you it will definitely come.
I think this is a very, very important point, and I'm glad you made it towards the end. So it might sound like that we are being very competitive and trying to sort of maximize the child's potential when we are talking about identifying aptitude, personality, interest, and fitting in. But Itishree is actually giving a message which appears paradoxical. So while all this is good, we are not trying to encash the child's talent, which is a common failing of Indian parents. I am also one, guilty there. So we have to avoid the temptation to encash this. As Itishree said, the flowering will happen at some point of time, and the flowering will happen in a different way. It may not be a monetary benefit or a social status or whatever. It will happen in a different way. We have to trust. And the thing, and an anxious parent is the worst possible thing for a child, right? Maybe you lack a little bit of knowledge. You don't know exactly. It's not so bad. But your anxiety is actually the most counterproductive thing which can happen. Yeah.
We always have to trust one thing as an Indian. Chet, Saraswati, Lakshmi will definitely come. Money will follow if you just give inputs to the child and wait for that money to come. It will definitely come. It will definitely follow if you give good inputs to your child. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dr. Itishree. And we will, So what we will do is, maybe it will take us 10 days or so. We will respond to all the major questions, some of them which we couldn't respond. And please write to me if, we couldn't address some of the things. So we'll wrap up the session here, and Sapna will quickly make some announcements, and we'll close after that.
Thanks so much, Dr. Itishree, for this insightful talk. And thank you everybody for joining and staying. One big announcement I had is we're hosting a gifted program for students from grades 6 to 10, a residential program in Bangalore during the winter break. It would be lovely if your children can join. We're sharing the link in the chat, and of course we'll share the same through the GenWise newsletter.
go along that way to pick up on.
Okay. All right. Sorry for that background noise. But once again, there's a residential program for gifted students from grade 6 to 10 in Bangalore this December. I've shared the link in the chat. Additionally, as Vishnu mentioned, we have a Gifted India Telegram channel. Do subscribe to that channel or join the channel. I've shared the link in the chat. We also have a newsletter, as he mentioned, that is goes out every 3 weeks or so. I've shared the link to the same in the chat as well. Yes, so that's it from me in terms of announcements, Vishnu.
Yeah, thank you so much, all of you, for dropping by, and thank you, Dr. Itishree. I think it was a great conversation, and we hope to have you back again after some time. There are so many topics to explore. Yeah, and if you have any difficulty getting through to Itishree, please write to me. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
And last sentence is, make your child achievers, not competitors.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Thank you. Bye.